with Kiddos Corral, and today I thought I would show you a recipe that I'm of course making for dinner today. This is a very loved recipe by my family, and I just thought I would share with you guys because it's so simple. It's obviously made in a crock pot, as you can see here. I've got my crock pot on low, and what I have here is almost a little slim of 2 pounds of cube steak. Now what I do is I cover my cube steak with a piece of wax paper. Words will come to me today, guys. I've had a very full morning, and what I do is I bang this. I wish I had a meat tenderizer, but I don't. I bang it, or you can roll it with a rolling pin. I know some people that have done that, but I just bang it with a wooden spoon. And I know I'm making a lot of noise in your ear right now, but I just flatten it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just flatten it out just a little bit, because these are really thick pieces of meat. Okay, once you're done doing that, and I think I got it pretty thin, and you can tell when you have done it till you can't do it anymore. I personally would use a meat tenderizer that isn't seasoned, but all I have is the seasoned one. If you have the seasoned one, go light on it because you don't want your meat too salty. So I just lightly sprinkle my meat, just like that. And I'm gonna get my knife and get up underneath these pieces of meat. And make sure you guys are getting this on. And I just want to cut this meat into slices, like little strips, really. Not slices, but strips. And as I do that, I'm going to place them into my crock pot. Just make sure they're cut and apart. And you can cut these as big and as small as you want. Now, I will tell you that depending on how many mouths you have to feed will determine on how much meat and whether or not you want to double this recipe or not, because this is plenty to feed my family of 5, but it may not be equivalent enough to feed a family of 6 or 7. So you may want to consider doubling the recipe. So basically I just cut this in strips, and if you feel like your strips are long, and you got to know that this meat, when it cooks up, it'll shrink up a little bit. So I just cut it in strips and throw it into the crock pot. And then the next thing you can do is you can add onion to it if you like. You can add bell pepper if you like. You can add mushrooms if you care to. But today I'm just making this very kind of a plain Jane and utilizing what I have. But basically what I'm making is beef tips and gravy, even though I'm not technically using beef tips. I'm going to serve this over, you can serve it over white rice, but I'm going to serve it over mashed potatoes and gravy. I said something to one of my kids. They asked me, what's the cube steak for? And I told them what I was making. They said, are we having mashed potatoes? So, you know, I was going to make rice, but now we're having mashed potatoes because that's what they want. So once that's done, I'm going to wash my hands really well. And then I'm going to re-sprinkle just a little tiny bit of my meat tenderizer, because the meat tenderizer really does help this recipe. And I'm just using this knife. I've been cutting bread this morning, making French toast. for the family to pop this cap. So I've got a can of cream of mushroom soup. And all I want to do is empty the contents of that in here. And I want to add, I just fill my can up with water. And I just stir it just to get the remaining of the soup mixture in there. And then I dump that over top of the beef tips. Now, I will tell you, this doesn't seem like it makes much gravy, but it actually does. But if you don't think this is going to be enough gravy, you can add anher can of cream of mushroom soup and another can of water, and believe me, it will be more than enough gravy. In fact, sometimes what I do is even though we might eat all the meat out of here, I will save the reserved gravy for something else. Like I might make hamburger patties tomorrow night or turkey patties and use the rest of the gravy on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup. And this is why you want to be careful with your seasonings, you know, your meat tenderizer, because you don't want this to get too salty, because it'll taste bad if it's too salty, and you don't want that. So I'm just trying to make sure I get all of this soup out of the can. And then I put just a little bit of black pepper on top of it as soon as I can find it. Here we go. I put some black pepper right on top. And I just give this a good stir around. And I let this cook for about 6 hours on low. And then whenever it is done, I will show you guys what it looks like. But this is so super easy and delicious. And I will be back in about 6 hours. Okay, my beef tips are done, basically my cube steak. And I just quickly wanted to show it to you in the crock pot. So I turned it on this morning about between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and it is now 4:30. And we are eating early tonight because my husband has work this evening. So I just quickly want to show you this, and then whenever I serve it, I'll show you what it looks like with the mashed potatoes. So I didn't want to hold the camera too close to this with all that steam. But as you can see, this is the beef tips and the gravy. And of course I have a spoon that, you know, isn't holding the gravy, but I wanted you to see what the beef tips look like. They are so tender. They just fell all apart in all that gravy, and it's going to be so delicious with mashed potatoes. Now with my mashed potatoes, I just peel them, cube them, boil them. They're boiling right now with a little bit of salt. I drain them, and then I use canned milk and butter and salt and pepper, and I mash them old-fashioned style with a potato masher, and that is what I serve this on top. Well, actually, technically, I serve the beef tips on top of the mashed potatoes. And then we're gonna have green beans on the side. So I'll show you guys, I'm gonna show you a close-up in the crock pot. Hopefully you guys can see. I apologize for how dark it is, because this side of my kitchen is really dark, and I turned my living room lights on so that it wouldn't be so dark in here. But this side of the kitchen, we are going to get some new lighting this year. It is totally in the works. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when I serve it up. This is what the beef tips and gravy looks like served up, and I hope y'all enjoyed this Sunday Simple Supper, and I will talk to you again soon.